Okay, so what I want to talk about today is to give you a little bit of insight into how some small businesses have tackled the challenges that procurers have experienced in addressing the Internet of Things, in this case in transport. I'll tell you a little bit more about my organisation and myself later on, but the main focus of this is the clients, the three companies and their innovations. So there are four elements I want to cover off here in terms of how does the Internet of Things apply to vehicles. Obviously, case studies will illustrate these. So first of all, the detection of information, the gathering of data that can then be used to do something. Second, transmission of that data. How do you get that data to where you need it? Third, then processing of that data. What do you do with it once you've got it? And then finally, the display of that data. The first case study we're going to look at is going to consider those first 2 points. And it's for a company, a Norwegian startup called Feister, and their technology TreadStar. Now, there are 300 million tyres sold each year in Europe, about 210 million retrofit and about 80 million or so OEM tyres. That's great, but around 20% of all tyres on the road have below legal tread limit. And the European Commission estimate that something around about 26,000 deaths are attributable, at least in part, to poor grip from tyres in Europe each year. So making sure that people have got correct tread depth on their tyres is a very, very serious problem. And it's incredibly easy to solve. You just measure the tread depth on the tyre with a tread depth meter. Except that requires people to do something. It requires them to get down on the floor underneath the car with the gauge and measure things. And so they don't bother. Something like 40% of all vehicle fleets or vehicle operators don't bother checking their tyres as a matter of course. And that is a serious problem. So what we want to do is we want to automate that process as much as possible. And this company, Feister, their innovation here has been to develop a stud that can be fitted into the tyre, a bit like a winter stud, for those who've driven in Scandinavia, possibly Scotland. So a winter stud that gets retrofitted into the tyre with a stud gun. They've developed one of these which has got a battery and a transmitter inside it. It's got a wear layer on it, and as the tyre wears down, so does this layer on the stud. Once it gets down to a certain depth, a seal is broken. Water, moisture can get into the stud, which activates the battery in it, which then allows the signal to be transmitted from the tyre to a receiver on the car to tell the driver that particular tyre is now worn down to its limit. It's not an easy thing to do. Just getting the data out of the tyre is difficult. Tyres get very, very hot and generally destroying any electronics that are put in them. It's obviously an incredibly violent and aggressive environment, so electronics and so forth can be broken very easily. It's got very high centrifugal forces, which again can damage conventional batteries. And a number of their innovations have addressed these concerns. We're helping them to secure funding, which will allow them to develop from the proof of principle to their first full prototype and test it. They're working with a major tyre manufacturer to get these things tested and installed on vehicles, and they've got interest from a large OEM car manufacturer. But their main route to market is going to be through retrofit, through tyre fitting companies, for example. But they've also got a lot of strong interest from fleet management companies. So they're looking to procure solutions for their fleets, and they're very, very interested in the fact that you can almost fit and forget these things for the fleet operators, so they know their drivers, their customers are going to be compliant at all times. So the next case study, looking at, well, what do you do with the data once you've got it? In the case of the tyre, it's fairly straightforward. You send it to a little device that goes beep, or to a phone and displays the information. But what if you need to do a bit more with that data? So I just mentioned fleet management companies. There are, I think, half of all vehicles sold in the UK are sold for fleets. So if we want to change the type of vehicle that gets bought, a great place to start is with fleets. And in this case, what we're looking to do is try and increase the number of electric vehicles on the roads and the number of hybrid vehicles. But how do you know that switching to an electric vehicle is the right decision? The truth is, at the moment, you don't. A vehicle which has got a rated range of 150 kilometres could, in certain circumstances, end up getting a range of about 50 kilometres from it in practice. And so people are incredibly nervous about buying electric vehicles, something called range anxiety. What they need is concrete information to say, yes, for this driver, for this route, the best thing to do is to either stick with a conventional diesel vehicle or to switch to an electric vehicle. And that's exactly what this product, Clean Car, is trying to do. A company called Fleet Innovations. And what they do is they've got a little device which goes in the car, gathers GPS data, gathers information about the driving style of the driver, gathers, that information is uploaded to the cloud, and then it's matched up with a whole load of additional data about the vehicle itself from government databases and other databases, from Met Office data about weather conditions on routes they're driving, from terrain information is brought out of the data, and a whole host of other pieces of information are all brought together, about 200 pieces of information are all brought together to work out, is this suitable for an electric vehicle or not? But it's not just, is it suitable, but which is the right electric vehicle. For example, there are 6 different types of standard for plugs on electric vehicles. So what does the charging infrastructure in the area look like? There's no point in recommending you get that one if you've got nowhere to plug it in to charge it up. So it works out, is that driver and is that route suitable? What type of vehicle would be most suitable? What does the charging infrastructure look like? And should you buy that vehicle or lease that vehicle? What's the ownership model that will deliver the best results? And what they found is that actually in the vast majority of cases, switching to electric vehicles for fleets is a good thing. Around about 80% of all daily driving behaviour is suitable for use of electric vehicles, yet only 5% of us would consider switching to an electric vehicle. I did a case study with an energy company, and they were looking at should they replace their fleet with electric vehicles. They had 54 drivers and vehicles in the fleet. What they found after doing a pilot study was 53 of those 54 were suitable for switching and would save on average about £1,000 per year per vehicle for the fleet. So what they did, they bought 54 electric vehicles and then bought one conventional one for the odd occasion, 1 or 2 journeys when an electric vehicle wouldn't be suitable. So it can have an absolutely huge impact on the procurement behaviour of an organisation. And it's not just about fleet management companies or fleet operators using this. They've had an awful lot of interest from electricity companies who are looking at it as a way of encouraging their customers to switch to electric vehicles for the obvious reason of selling more electricity to them. So they want to use that to roll out to consumers to encourage them to make that switch. Okay, final case study company is I've gathered the data, I've processed the data. Now, how do I communicate that data? There is a huge amount of data available in a modern car. You can get information from just about every part of the car and use it to communicate just about everything. And that's just in the car itself. Then you've got all of the information coming from outside the car. News updates, phone calls, emails, texts. Google and Apple and the numerous others are coming up with ways of giving more information to the driver. And you get into a situation of information overload. Where exactly are you supposed to look while you're driving? Something's beeping down there, and I've got to control a knob down there, and there's some switches up here, but I've got to adjust them. The sat nav's telling me to do something, and the radar detection gun's telling me to slow down. And yeah, you can very quickly get overwhelmed. So what pretty much every single OEM is looking to do at the moment is to put as much of that information into the driver's line of sight through the use of head-up displays. Put the information where it's needed and only put the information there when it's needed. What they really want, their holy grail, is augmented reality. We want to be able to overlay information onto the road. So we can put your sat-nav directions directly over the road that you're driving along, for example. The problem is that the devices, the head-up displays used to display that information are expensive and bulky. To get a proper augmented reality display that would fill the driver's vision at, say, 30 meters, you would need a unit in the car itself, which is about the size of a box of A4 paper, about 15 litres volume. And modern cars just don't have that sort of space spare in them. Most of that space is due to the optics. What this company, Series Holographic, have done is said, right, let's get rid of the optics completely. Let's get rid of the lenses and reflectors and the mirrors that transmit the signal, and let's replace them with a photopolymer holographic optical element. Basically, a piece of plastic film that's laminated into the windscreen. I know all windscreens are laminated anyway with plastic in them. It's exactly the same as that, just laminate a piece of plastic into the windscreen. But that piece of plastic has got etched on it all of the waveguide elements that replace the lenses and mirrors. So the projector projects onto the windscreen, and this single sheet of flat film then does all of the clever optics and light guiding to create the head-up display and project an image out 30 meters from the driver or 20 meters from the driver, so you never have to take your eyes off the road. The difference in cost that this makes is phenomenal. These elements might cost anywhere between sort of $100 and $200. Replacing something costs a few $1,000s conventionally. So there's a real game changer there. And they've got massive interest from some major OEMs, who unfortunately I can't mention for commercial confidentiality, but it is really impressive the amount of interest they've generated with this technology, because it really is the only technology out there that can give the OEMs that holy grail of a complete augmented reality screen. You could, for example, put one HOE and one holographic optical element on one side of the car for the driver, and a completely different one for the passenger, showing completely different information, like a mirror of their phone, for example. So they can do all of their passengers can do all of their tweets and things on a nice big display, and it's not interfering with the driver's vision in any way, shape, or form. You could even imagine, if you want to go to sort of local council procurement, sticking all of the job information for a member of staff, maybe it's a road management person who's out in his van, and he gets all his job list up on the screen in front of him. You can even overlay where the potholes are on the road using it, for example, so they can see exactly where the next piece of work needs to be done and update things in real time. So there's a huge amount of possibilities for the technology. So that's 3 organisations, small businesses in the UK and Norway in this case, who have developed innovative solutions based around the Internet of Things, based around data gathering, transmission, processing and display to solve problems that OEMs and fleet management companies and fleet operators have got with their vehicles. I mentioned us, IXION Innovation. We're helping these businesses to access grant funding from the European Commission, from Innovate UK, from a number of other programs, whatever suitable, to make these innovations a reality. In the case of the tyre tread monitoring system, then it's to go from a proof of principle to a fully working prototype. In the case of the other 2, it's to go from prototype to market. And if anyone wants to have a chat with me afterwards in the break about anything we do, then please feel free. Thank you very much.